Now, the US faces two very different situations in Iraq and Afghanistan. While looking to end one war, it may soon escalate another, and the political side of the equation has become as important as the military. Afghan President Hamid Karzai was inaugurated this week despite serious doubts about the legitimacy of his victory, while Iraq's January election is in jeopardy as lawmakers wrestle with how to divide seats in the parliament. In tonight's Prism segment, we talk to the people the Americans will eventually be leaving behind. What are their hopes and concerns about the future of their countries? Earlier this week, I sat down with students from Sharjah's American University here in the United Arab Emirates. I began by asking for their thoughts on Iraq's elections.
I think having now more open society will make the election even fair. Even though if it will be postponed, that's okay. Until it is fair, that's everything.
That's the most important thing to you. But it is difficult, isn't it, to try to bring together a country which has so many divisions, ethnic divisions, geographical divisions, religious divisions as well. How does Nouri al-Maliki bind a country together?
Well, now, the key point is, do we want to accept each other? Yes. We have many divisions. We have ethnic divisions. We have religious divisions. But do we want to accept each other? Like Nouri al-Maliki is trying his best to, for example, to assure that there is security. But I think that it lies within the people, within each individual, the citizen, rather than the government. If we want to accept the truth that, okay, we are diverse, but we have to accept each other.
Do you have confidence in Iraq to be able to deal with its own security problems?
Well, I think the responsibility does not lie on the government to supply or to make available security, rather than to establish itself in its eyes of the people, because from one of the simple definitions of the state is that people recognize it as having the monopoly over the use of force. And since someone is defying that by the use of force, then there isn't a monopoly, there isn't an agreement that this is the government or this is the body which people recognize.
The same things you're talking about there, you could apply just as easily to Afghanistan, the other war that President Obama inherited. We've seen a second term now of Hamid Karzai begin, an election that was called fraudulent, and a Taliban that seems to be getting stronger. What do you think the future of Afghanistan is, Yusuf?
Well, I think that Taliban will get even stronger, because extremism is really arising in the region. It's especially in the Middle East. Now,
what attracts people in Afghanistan to extremism? They've lived through the Taliban before.
Yes.
They got rid of the Taliban with the US and outside help. Why would they gravitate back to them?
They would, because the calls for jihad by extremists, Al-Qaeda leaders, they want a war that's either in Afghanistan or in Iraq, because you see the American forces there. And especially it has already, even before the American forces, they have the Al-Qaeda leaders, they have their base, they have their people in Afghanistan who are actually, some of them, unfortunately, supporting the extremists.
I actually believe it's a bit more complicated than that. It's not black and white, because as we've seen, Pakistan over the past 10 years, I believe, has been receiving immense aid from America for the army and everything. Of course, allying itself with America to prevent the spread of Al-Qaeda, but things began to get out of hand, or the Americans and the Pakistani government are alienating themselves from the people. Members of the Pakistani army are surrendering to the Taliban.
The US is looking for partnership. The US says it wants Pakistan to be able to deliver more in the fight against militants, and it wants more from Hamid Karzai. Can the US rely on those partnerships? Can they deliver?
Well, with Karzai, I think maybe they can win. But with Pakistan, the situation is really difficult. The Pakistani army is aware that there are attacks. I mean, you cannot have the same place attacked.
Well, the Pakistan army itself was attacked.
Yes, and I think they are aware that there are attacks, and they are just being quiet about it. Maybe there are religious reasons. Maybe many of the Muslim population, they are scared to fight Al-Qaeda in fear of God.
Is there suspicion towards the United States? And I want to ask you this, Ali, what role does the US alliance with Israel play, if in fact there is that suspicion?
Well, if you look at the alliance with Israel, it's you cannot blame the U.S. and Israel for having such an alliance. Their interests coincide together. It's natural. I think that 8 years of war have really alienated people from the American body of government. I think it'll take some bold actions to win that trust back, to win the ability to trust the American word again, because I personally have lost it with the Bush administration.
Yusuf, Ali, thank you very much for sharing your views with us.
Thank you very much.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.